The next arc of My Hero Academia is here, and of course that means we have a brand new opening to go over. I've already done an opening breakdown of the first Season 6 opening, and now it's time for us to talk about the brand new one that just released today. The opening starts off with the words My Hero Academia and Smash very quickly flashing in front of us before we get right to exactly what we want to see, with Deku lifting his hand and looking forward as the rain falls on him in his new outfit that we'll see in a few episodes. Of course, a missable detail here for people who aren't manga readers is the scarf that Deku is wearing is Gran Torino's scarf, but you'll have to keep watching to learn what happens to him and if he makes it or not. As Deku lifts his head, we see a very tired expression on his face as half of his mask appears over his face, showing us exactly what we're about to get into, letting people quickly know that it is Dark Deku time and the solo arc is beginning. Next up, we get a recreation of the final shot from My Hero Academia chapter 306, a rather famous shot in the fandom just because of how much hype there was on Twitter when we initially got this page on spoiler night. And of course we see Deku looking over the city with his scarf and hood flowing in the wind, as again the rain continues to fall down on Deku. Now I appreciate Bones for their decision of filling this opening with a lot of rain, because Horikoshi himself let us know the following. The name Deku originates from a verse of the poem Be Not Defeated by the Rain, so maybe that's why now in the story it's raining all the time. This attention to detail is really nice to see even just in the opening, and it gives me hope that they'll properly set the atmosphere in these upcoming episodes, since none of the upcoming arc takes place in the daytime where we get that blue sky that people tend to complain about in My Hero Academia. For a second, the top three heroes, Endeavor, Hawks, and Best Jeanist, flash by, and these three are of course important because they are some of the only support Deku can get during this dark period. Japan has fallen to the heroes and many heroes have completely quit, so as the top three continue on to try to capture all of the Tartarus Escapees, we see them leaning on Deku quite a bit in this arc as he rushes onwards to find All for One. Interesting note is during Hawks' section we see the younger version of Hawks, which hints to his backstory, which we've already gone over on the channel, and you can click the card in the top right to watch my video on Hawks' backstory. As we cut back to Deku, and Deku moves on to go deal with the threat causing all of the destruction in the background, who by the way is Muscular, right? I do believe this is Deku literally going after Muscular, who is causing all that commotion. We see that All Might looks worried as Deku walks off, and this is likely a nod to the fact that Deku and All Might's mentor and student relationship is strained more in this arc than ever before. All Might already felt like he could barely keep up with Deku and that Deku didn't really look at him like a teacher anymore, but now we'll see Deku in a situation where he can't tolerate any dead weight. So All Might is either going to have to step it up or get left behind. Now after lingering on the MHA logo for 9 seconds, which felt like an eternity, that was just way too long, we see Deku with his mask on in full costume, rapidly jumping and floating through the streets as electricity surrounds him. Deku is all alone because after the Tartarus escape, villains flooded the streets and he didn't feel safe putting the class in danger by being there. But right after seeing Deku, we see those exact classmates all out in the rain in groups. We get a lot of shots of the UA students and they're actually looking for Deku, and eventually Ochako looks up and the camera rushes high up atop the highest skyscrapers in the city, where we see among multiple cranes a woman with purple hair who we haven't seen yet in the anime. Now this would be of course the lovely Lady Nagant, a villain who'll be battling Deku in this arc, and soon on this channel I'll be discussing and retelling the whole story, so keep an eye out. We see Deku sitting atop of a bus and a bunch of rubble all alone, looking rather lonely, and as someone walks up he turns to see who it is, and we can see his eyes, which are just really underlined very harshly, showing just how far Deku takes things in this arc. He exhausts himself in every possible way trying to save others as he hunts down All for One, and as we see Ochako reaching out to Deku trying to get him to come down, we see a shocked Deku as the camera flies into his eyes and shows him and Ochako holding hands. And that then fades away to one of my favorite moments in the whole opening. We see Deku black whip around a building as he cuts through one of the floors seamlessly, and whip swings again as he rushes along multiple buildings, and a spotlight tries to keep track of him. Now this is definitely a callback to the fact that we are going to see a lot of web swinging from Deku in this arc, especially considering the battle that he's going to end up having, where it's all going to be about how well he can move and how well he can dip and dodge through these buildings to make sure that he doesn't come under fire. And of course, as Deku is trying to dodge this spotlight, we see 3 bullets hitting the screen and shattering the glass, showing Deku's calm face as he dodges his assassin's bullets, and we get another close-up of her. This shows us Lady in the God's quirk, which we've already explained in a short, but her quirk allows her to turn her arm into a sniper, and she can use her hair as bullets that she already has some really great control over, making her extremely dangerous for someone like Deku unless he puts all of his quirks to the test. And Lady Nagan isn't just some run-of-the-mill villain, she actually has a really interesting backstory, and since Horikoshi wasn't completely able to write all of her backstory because he said it would have taken up an entire volume, I wonder if the anime is going to fill in some of that space, or if they've asked him about what he intended to draw, so maybe they can just include that in the anime instead. We then have a weird segment where a man completely covered in black and white grows out of the ground and starts to scream, and my first assumption was that this was Kotaro Shimura somehow, but I really don't get this part of the opening, and it might just be a signifier of all the pain and anguish that Deku goes through in this arc. After this, we see an amazing shot of Deku standing up and putting both of his arms out as he activates One For All, and the camera spins around him in slow motion. And from him, hundreds of strands of electricity radiate around him in what seems like stop time because of how fast he's about to move. If you remember, One For All does kind of look a little different than it does in the manga, where there's more of a texture just throughout Deku's skin, so I wonder if they'll slightly alter the way that some of Deku's other quirks look, like Fajin, because low-key I do love how this shot looks here, as it seems like Deku is going into false 120%. From here we see an interesting opening original scene where Bakugo, Todoroki, and Ida rush towards Shigaraki and start attacking him and knocking him down, as Shigaraki completely blocks a flash fire heat wave and a howitzer impact. But on the side we see Deku starting to slowly get up from a runner stance as all the different colors of One For All flash past him, signifying that this is the arc where Deku truly masters One For All. By the end of the season, we'll only have one quirk left for him to discover in the final arc next season, but Deku has really grown a lot over the course of the series, and it's gone much faster since he awakened Black Whip at the beginning of season 5. Deku speeds forward with ridiculous force, and we cut away to a close-up of Deku's twisted and mangled mask blowing off of his face, revealing a sad Deku as the tears he was hiding are all blown away, because for a lot of this arc, Deku really is crying behind the mask. But in front of Deku is Shigaraki, who starts getting blown back by Deku's light as Shigaraki's body blows away and becomes smoke that takes the shape of All For One, which also gets blown away, revealing Tenko Shimura with black hair coming free from their body. He stumbles forward and falls over, and thankfully, Deku is there now looking much healthier to lend his hand to Tenko and finally save him as we see the sun rise on a brand new day. A green sun then shines on all of Deku's classmates, who we see standing together once again as they face Deku, and as Deku now puts his hand up reunited with the class, he moves forward with all of their support, ready to take on whoever else gets in their way, which will ultimately lead us to the events of My Hero Academia Season 7, where after fighting the traitor, we only have a short while to prepare for the final battle. This opening was done by Eve, who many people will recognize from the Jujutsu Kaisen opening or their Chainsaw Man ending, and they always do a really good job on the song, with the anime production team usually really stepping it up for the anime opening video, which more or less serves as a music video for the song. This opening has some really stylish art choices, like how flat a lot of the colors are at times, and how the opening goes from being very gray and dark to ending in a very bright shining green light once Deku reunites with his class. Now on this channel we already have a video titled The Day Bakugo Apologized to Deku, where you can find out how the class tried to get Deku to come back to UA, and I also have a separate video discussing the battle between Deku and one of his biggest enemies from early on in My Hero, Muscular, that you can also watch as well. I believe right now it's titled The Day That Muscular Fought Deku Again, or maybe The Day That Deku Broke His Limits. It's one of those videos, but you can definitely catch it on the channel in the card in the top right. This arc is about to be the darkest period in Deku's life so far, and without support it'll be very hard for him to deal with it, but in the manga it was just great to see the tear down of his character, because it felt like Horikoshi's art just kept getting better and better as he drew Deku in crazier and crazier ways. I wonder how the anime is going to handle this, and soon I'll be talking about the day that Deku left UA in detail, so check back on that channel and hit that subscribe button to never miss an upload, click the bell icon to join my league of notifications, and I hope this opening breakdown was helpful for you, and if you want to see my first opening breakdown from this season, it'll be in the end screen. I'll see you guys later. I'm excited for this next part of this season, and it's Pineapple. I'll see you again soon. Peace.